let's just quickly review this, right? So with every sentence that we're going to deal with, inshallah, from today, this is the process, right? So we've already been through the way that you should approach analysis. This is what you want to, this is like an addendum to that, right? So this is how you want to approach any given construct, right? So one, we've been through this before, so I'll shoot through this. If there's anything you don't catch, just shout me out and we'll go through it, inshallah. So one is always start by identifying the pieces or the parts of the macro construct, right? So you remember we spoke about macro constructs and micro constructs, right? The macro construct is the main clause or the main sentence, the main structure. So that could be a jumla ismiya, it could be a jumla fi'liya, or it could be any given phrase, like the first sentence is just a phrase, or it could be a modified jumla ismiya, right? So like a kana sentence or an inna sentence, right? So what the reason why you do that is because you want to from the off the bat, right from the beginning, you want to be clear about what you're dealing with, right? So if you're dealing with a jumla ismiya, you know that by the end of your analysis, you essentially want two things, right? You want the mubtada and you want the khabar, right? It kind of just breaks it down. So rather than looking at the size of the sentence and you're like, oh my God, that's massive, right? Where do I start with this? But just think about what type of construct it is. So, for example, if you see a sentence and it's opening with kana, that could be a verse of the Quran or a hadith or anything, right? It's opening with a kana. You know that in your final analysis, you're going to have how many parts? Three parts, right? There's the fi'l naqis, there's the ism of kana, and there's the khabar of kana. So, no matter how long it gets, ultimately, it's going to boil down to three parts, right? If it's a modified sentence with the inna, same thing. There's the harf mushabba bil fi'l, inna, and then you've got the two parts that you're looking for. If it's a jumla ismiya, two parts. If it's a jumla fi'liya, that's the most tricky in this whole equation, right? With the jumla fi'liya, you can't know how many parts until you've finished the analysis, right? Because remember the extra components, they can be 10 maf'ul bihis, right? There might be all five maf'uls might be present. There might be a hal, there might be tamyiz. So with the jumla fi'liya, it's slightly more complex to kind of, but you know that you need the fa'il and the fa'il, and then you work with the rest of it, right? So with the jumla fi'liya, the way to think about it is core and extra. With everything else, just work with the slots, right? So when I say core and extra, I mean with the jumla fi'liya, the core is what? Fi'l, fa'il. And then everything else extra, treat it on a case to case, on a case by case basis, right? And then with the jumla ismiya, mubtada khabar. With the modified jumla ismiya, it's the modifier plus the two parts of it, right? So that's the first thing. So for example here, وَكَانَ النَّاسُ, ignore the wa, كَانَ النَّاسُ يَسْجُدُونَ لِلْأَصْلِ هَذِهِ الْأَصْنَامِ, right? So I know off the bat that by the time I finish with this, there's essentially three parts that need to be clearly identified, right? There's the kana part, which is a modifier, then there's the ism of kana, and then there's the khabar of kana, right? And how do you figure out the ism of kana and the khabar of kana? That's going to be based on the process chart that we did last time, right? So like for example, here we've got the kana, and then straight after it we have an ism. And so now your ism processes start working, right? You start working with your ism processes, looking for phrases, identify the ding, all of that stuff that we spoke about on Monday, right? So that's uh that's the first thing. Second step is identify what type of construct you're dealing with, right? So if you see a kana, jumla ismiya. If you see a inna, it's a jumla ismiya. If you see any other fi'l, any fi'l, sorry, apart from kana, if you see like a regular fi'l opening a sentence, it's a jumla fi'liya, and so on and so forth, right? So like here, you know you're dealing with a jumla ismiya because you've got the kana opener. Third one, identify subconstructs. So now this is where we get onto the micro constructs, right? So and as you said, Umair, so the micro constructs are like those core slots, the big pieces, مبتدا خبر فعل فاعل مفعول به اسم كان خبر كان, those core pieces, what are they made up of? What's the subconstruct, right? And it could be a jumla or it could be a phrase. That will go back to what knowledge do you refer back to? You refer back to your understanding of the slot theory or the positions, right? So is it a mubtada? And does it qualify as a mubtada? So we know what can qualify as a mubtada? A single ism, or it could be a regular ism or a pronoun, um, or a ism plus ism phrase. So you need to, that's the kind of theory that you need to tap into, right? So for example, here, وكان الناس يسجدون لهذه الأصنام. The macro construct is a kana construct. So what do I need? I need a kana, I need the modifier, I need the ism, and I need the khabar. Uh, now I start working through this and looking for micro constructs, right? So for example, if you look at this sentence here, what would be the first giveaway of a micro construct? If you look at this, وكان الناس, this is from the Qasas, by the way. وكان الناس يسجدون لهذه الأصنام. At what point would you identify one of the subconstructs? Where do you know for sure there's going to be a subconstruct? The fi'l, if you ever see a fi'l in Arabic, you've got the jumla fi'liya already, right? It's just there. Because you have the fi'l and you have the pronoun. And so if you see a fi'l, immediately you should be thinking, okay, this is a subconstruct, which means I need to look for a jumla fi'liya and all of its components now. So the minute you see a fi'l, your mind should trigger the fi'l process, right? I need a fa'il. And then are there any extras? How do the extras relate? And so on and so forth, right? So that's one. Another way that you identify subconstructs is by anything that uh, any phrasal construct that you see becomes a separate micro construct, right, or a subconstruct. So, for example, here you see harf jar. You see a harf jar, you immediately know, okay, I've got another construct here, a jari construct. You see a hada, or here is hadihi, immediately you know this is going to be an ishari construct. So these are the things to look out for. So if you see a harf jar, if you, some of them are easier to figure out, like the huruf jar, like the ism ishara, and so on. Others might be a bit more complex. So identifying, for example, the idafa might not be as straightforward. You might need to kind of work on that.